first of all, I want to have a little chat about something called moral issues. Now, what do I mean by moral issues? Well, let's start with one that's easy for you guys to think about, and that's bullying. Now, let's be honest about it. You know, whether you're a victim of it or whether you've been involved in it, I hope you haven't been involved in it. Bullying is a real hot topic, especially in education at the moment. And I suppose the main culprit of bullying has been various Facebook groups and campaigns set up to humiliate other people. Now, there's nothing illegal going on here. It's not really pleasant, is it? And certainly if you've been on the end of a Facebook bullying campaign, or if you've been involved in chat rooms where, you know, you've been picked on and bullied, it's not a particularly pleasant thing that's been happening. Of course, as well as the moral issue of bullying, we also have, and I mentioned this before, inappropriate, if I can spell this word, inappropriate, I'm never sure how to spell it, I think it's supposed to be one N, isn't it? Let's try that again. Inappropriate, just as well as IT and not English. Inappropriate websites. One of the things that we're noticing within education a lot now is, well, basically, I'm going to put the word pornography because that's, unfortunately, a world we live in nowadays. I mean, you guys have access to it. I mean, I'd imagine most of you don't have filtered internet access at home, and I would wager that probably the vast majority of people watching this video now have at some point looked at pornography on the internet. But also, see, the thing is that, let's be honest about it, the very young are able to access it as well, especially with parents at home who are not internet savvy. They don't know how to use the likes of K9, which is a very good web protection program, which is completely free. I'm sure lots of you can run home and say, Mum, Dad, guess what I learned today? You can protect me from anything on the internet by installing K9. You're probably not going to do it, are you? But unfortunately, we do live in a world now where primary school kids do have access to, you know, it's not right. They shouldn't, I mean, you know, if you're 16 and above, it's legal, isn't it? So, should you be looking at it? I don't know. But certainly, I'm sure even if you're 16, you wouldn't want your 9, 10-year-old brother or sister to be accessing that sort of thing. And going back from Facebook, as well as bullying, arrow should be a bit longer. Number 3, rumours, isn't it? People can blog and they can wiki and they can do all sorts of things nowadays, and you can start rumours going around anywhere you want. Is rumours and bullying the same thing? I don't know. Maybe if you said a rumour around that I was incredibly handsome and was the best teacher in the whole wide world, I'm thinking, nay, thank you very much for the rumour. Is it morally right to do that? I'd like to think yes, but I think some of you probably say, well, actually, I've been listening to your stuff, it's all right, but my teacher's better than you, and you're probably right. So, yeah, I mean, have positive rumours, I suppose, one way of flipping the coin. But one thing is for sure, that you can actually, on a moral level, you can set up websites that disseminate incorrect information. I should really have put a screenshot in here, but if you go to, it's my favourite one, we do it with the Year 7s, www.dhmo.org. It's all about dihydrogen monoxide and what a terrible thing it is. And it's only with a little bit of chemistry knowledge that you go dihydrogen, 2 hydrogens, let's put the 2 afterwards, monoxide, you get where this is going, don't you? It's basically it's a spoof website, but people believe what they see on it. If it's on the website, it must be true because it's on a website, and it's not. I mean, very famously, Wikipedia suffers quite often from people sabotaging various pages on there and spreading misinformation. So these are moral issues that really you want to think about. There's nothing illegal about it, but, you know, should you be doing this sort of stuff? Is it right? Is it right? I think that's maybe what we should put up here. Is it right that kids should be bullying, and should little kids be... Is it... Oh, my pen's slowing up again. Never mind. Let's see if we can get through this video. Is it right? Question mark. Yes, is it right to spread rumours and put up incorrect information just for fun, and inappropriate websites and stuff like that? So let's move on to another topic. Now, this is what I call everyone calls ethical issues. And what we're looking at here are basically issues on the internet that they're not illegal, but you would probably think that they probably would be. And I suppose there's a bit of a fine line in some ways between ethical issues and moral issues. But let's have a look at our first one. One thing that you kids probably do load, plagiarism. In other words, copying. There's a law against it for a start, the Copyright Designs and Patents Act. I'm not sure that if you copy and paste a paragraph from Wikipedia and pass that off as your history homework, that you're naturally going to get it by the Copyright Designs and Patents Act. You're probably going to get it done by your teacher with a simple Google search. They can say, well, that's clearly not your work. I've put it in speech marks and I've looked for this particular piece of text. And hey, look at this website that you clearly copied and pasted everything from. So it's not illegal, but on an ethical level, it does mean that people have access to information that they can basically just copy and paste. And as well as that, I mean, as well as copying, I've certainly seen kids in the past selling coursework on eBay. You've got a project to do for ICT, for your GCSE, or for whatever course you're doing, and you can buy it online, and you can just go, well, there's my work. That's plagiarism, isn't it? It's not your work. Is it illegal? I'm not sure you'd be breaking any law by buying someone else's coursework. Another thing that people often think is illegal, but it is not illegal, is the sending of spam mail. Now, I must confess that I have done this myself in the past. And what you can do is, if you could Google for email spider. What this does, it searches web pages for any text that surrounds the @ symbol, and of course, if you have david@hotmail.com, what an email spider does, it goes through websites and it picks out anything basically where if I write the word space here and put it in brackets, I put a space here and put it in little brackets. The spider looks at anything as the @ symbol and says, okay, take everything before the space, before the @ symbol, and take everything after the @ symbol, before the next space, and put that into a database. And that's how email spiders work. I confess, in trying to publicise one of my old websites, what I did was I bought an email spider with £30 a little program, and set it to work trawling all school websites for anything that had an email address. And of course you'd have things like admin I'll do my own school, Borden Grammar, if I can fit it on, bordengrammar.kent.sch.uk. I'm going to just about, no, I'm not going to. And I basically set it working, and it went through basically all of the school websites that were available online, and it pulled out anything from the school websites that looked like an email address. And I'd spam them. I think it was constructive spamming, I'd like to think of. I wasn't saying buy Viagra or increase your breast size or anything like that. Basically, I sent an email saying, please forward your head of IT, here's a fab new website you might find useful. And it worked. The visits to my site the next day were up, I think it was threefold as a result. But sending spam, not illegal, but is it right to do it? I think a lot of people probably would have had a few emails back saying, why are you sending us this nonsense? One thing that we can do, and this is another thing that people think, under privacy you cannot do this, is that if you work for a company, you normally sign a code of conduct which says that they have access to everything on the computers. So therefore, if you use email at your place of work, you do it for personal email, ultimately, if you do too much personal use, you could actually be fired for doing that. And people say, you cannot monitor my email, it's privacy, I have the right to privacy. Yeah, no you don't. If you're using equipment at a school, and you're not using it for school purposes, and you're caught using it, you can't play the privacy card. Although this is not a law, there is no law on the flip side that protects you from having your emails being monitored. Something else that I've talked about in earlier videos is I call it jacking, down with the kids, jacking someone's wireless. We talked wireless, always with I in there, jacking someone's wireless connection. We talked about the idea in previous videos, earlier on in these series of videos, that a lot of people don't put a WEP key on their home internet connection, and as a result anyone can use that broadband connection to the internet. Indeed, some people can even hack WEP keys and still use people's their wireless connections. I'm a bit of a burp there, but I'm not going to redo this video. So, don't drink pop Diet Coke when you're recording, if you're ever going to do this sort of thing. Nothing illegal about actually using someone's wireless connection, even if you break the WEP key. Although, mind you, would that be hacking? Probably, maybe it is illegal, but you're not going to get done for it. No one's going to come after you for doing that. Another thing that I'm going to flip on to the next slide for. Here is a very, very famous photograph, and this is point number 5 under our ethical issues that I'm going to look at. And I'm supposed to write photo editing here. If you look very carefully, you'll notice, if I try and get this here, there we go, there's trying to get in there. There's 2 women there, and here, look, that's a man. And so's that. You can tell it's a man. He's got a big beard and a bald head. This is a famous photograph of the Israeli cabinet, and there was a very right-wing Israeli paper that basically women have no role in society apart from to produce children and cook. That's what they feel. And what they decided to do was, when this photograph came out, they decided to doctor it. So in their newspaper, it looked like this. Now, is there anything illegal going on? No. Ethically, is that right? Well, of course it's not ethically right, but I'm not going to get involved in an argument over ethical issues with Israeli politics, for I know nothing about it. But let's move on. We've talked about moral and ethical issues. Another one that we really need to address is the social issues that can result of by people using the internet. One of the biggest problems, and it's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger, people are addicted to gambling. And, every premiership for every other, that's not every, that's unfair, but every other premiership team seems to be sponsored by some sort of poker website or some sort of betting website that you can get. And there's no doubt that the internet encourages gambling. There can be no doubt that it encourages gambling, and as a result of encouraging gambling, does that then potentially say that there is going to be, as a result, an increase in crime afterwards? Now that's something I can't really deal with just here. It's something that I'm sure you can expand upon with a little bit of logical argument. The same one is also, as you might be aware, in this country we talk about there's an outbreak of obesity and all you kids are fat, and you're sitting there listening to me and stuffing yourself with cakes because you don't go out like we used to do when we were kids, and you don't go out, you don't play football, you play FIFA, or if you've actually got some understanding of computer games and how they work, you play Pro Evo instead, because it always has been the better game. And you're probably going, some of you go, no, you crazy man, for FIFA they have real names and real graphics. The gameplay just ain't the same, and you can always score from 45 yards. You're not going to do that in Pro Evo. No, anyway, I won't get into that one. There is no doubt that by using the internet to communicate, one thing is that MSN, you can talk to someone, or you can get out, get onto your bike, go down the road and go and meet them in the park and talk face to face. And as a result of doing that every day, you'd be a lot thinner than you are. They actually say that 38,000 calories, I'm off on a tangent here, equates to 1 stone. Now, if you go down the park, have a little run around, and let's say you burn 200 calories, how many? I'm not going to do the maths, that's one. It's 5 days, 38 times 100. In half a year, you could lose a stone just by going down to the park and having a kick around with a football for half an hour a day. 1 stone lighter in a year. So all you tubby kids, get out there and play football and get off Facebook, because it's just, well, yeah. I mean, look, there's a problem in its own right. There's an addiction to computers. In Facebook, the number of hours that my nieces, and they're fat as well. I shouldn't say just because they're watching it. They're overweight. I'm not going to lie. They're right tubby, especially one of them. And she's on Facebook all the time, and it's just go out. Maybe you can't play football. Do some skipping, or no, skipping's not cool, is it? Just get out and do stuff. You're addicted to computers, as well as the health issues that come from it. You're the first kids. Like, here's one for you now. You've got to kind of do this. I'm going to draw a hand here now. Yay! Woo! There it is. That's actually more like a foot. There we go. I put an arm on it, so it looks like a hand. You hold up your left hand. No, do this right now. I'm not joking. Hold up your left hand. Take your right hand and place it across your wrist, right about there, and then wiggle your fingers in your left hand. Yeah? What do you feel on your right hand? You feel loads and loads of tendon movement. Now, you're the first generation of kids that have typed since, like, age of 5. So you're the first human beings in history that use a lot of typing. And who knows what that's going to ultimately do to, your wrists. And you're going to have RSI and carpal tunnel. And all because you just can't give up the old Facebook, all because you can't bother to cycle down the road. You're going to be fat with crooked hands as you get older, aren't you? I warned you, there's going to be an epidemic. If you want a great job, you want to be a nutritionist that also specialises in wrist complaints, because you're going to be made in later life, that's for sure. Anyway, perhaps off to something a little bit more sensible. Privacy. How many of you use Facebook? And how many of you in your Facebook settings have decided that you're not going to change anything, and you give out your date of birth because you want people to wish you a happy birthday, and everyone can see your email address, and you want thousands of friends, and everybody that asks to be your friend, you go, I accept, I accept, I accept. Oh well, you're an idiot, because I can learn so much about you and access potentially banking accounts, etc., because you just give away too much information, because the internet really isn't it isn't a private environment. Whatever you want to put up on the internet stays on the internet, especially on Facebook and stuff like that. You're not going to get it back. Once it's out there, it's out there. And those are 4 issues that really you want to consider about the internet. Now, staying with the internet, social, moral, and ethical we've done. Let's just deal with something that perhaps doesn't really affect us. Censorship. Now, it's quite interesting when people say, well, who owns the internet? Okay, let's put who owns the internet. Let's ask that question. Who owns the net? No one does. It's just interconnected computers, aren't they? Nobody actually owns the connection. Of course, in places like China, I don't know, I've done that in capital letters, and specifically places like North Korea, very much so, they do actually apply to their nation quite a lot of filters, so they can't get out. For example, China can't go to google.com, they've got to go to google.cn, I think, which is the short one for China. So they can't get out. Interestingly enough, though, most countries don't really put much in the way of censorship up. But there's one country, and it's not censorship, okay, not the issue, monitoring. Yeah. Now, there are countries in this world, they do things like the government have put systems into place where they can trace every search on the internet. Yeah, trace everything you search. The search on the internet could be traced by some countries. They can legally intercept any email at all, any email that's written, and even they demand that if you encrypt it, that you have to provide a decryption key to show them what was in the email in the first place. And other things, every search that you've done, they can basically intercept, and they can trace basically every MSN conversation that you have. There are countries in place that do things like this. I mean, China and North Korea, they do this sort of thing. There's one other country that does this, yeah, do you want to have a guess? Some of you have probably working this out already, and you're probably going, yeah, it starts with a U, and then it starts, no, it's not an S, it's the UK. Yeah, in the year 2000, we passed a law which I'm going to put down here, and I'm going to let you Google it, the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act. And we were the only country in the developed world that passed this. And it was all to do with, at the time, they were trying to track paedophiles on the internet. And so what happened, there was a big outbreak of hysteria about tracking paedophiles on the internet. And I hope some people think, oh, this is offensive. It's not offensive. This is what happened. I'm not trying to create this is genuinely what happened. And it was particularly down in Portsmouth and Oxford. There's a big thing about vigilante gangs going after paedophiles, and the government slipped this law in, saying, okay, we'll trace paedophiles on the internet, and maybe that's a good thing. Well, it is a good thing, isn't it, tracking it? But as a result of it, they required that all ISPs, internet service providers, BT, Tiscali, TalkTalk, they fit black boxes to their computers, which simply have the capability to record everything that you do on the internet. Okay, so if for some reason you're ever flagged up as either being a hacker or being some sort of criminal of some description, the UK government are able to intercept everything that you do on the internet, and even if you are smart enough to encrypt it, they can demand that you give them the decryption key so they can actually interpret what you have written. So if you encrypt an email, now that's true, and I advise you, I would really honestly go and Google Regulation of Investigative Powers Act and have a read up on it, because it makes fascinating reading. But we are literally, the UK have similar governmental legislation to countries that we would really associate with communism and state control, and they have nothing like this in any other developed Western country. It doesn't exist. They might do it, I don't know nothing about MI5 and MI6 and Secret Service. They may do it illegally, and I'm not getting involved in a James Bond type thing. But ours is legal. The government have said all internet service providers must let them intercept, if they want to, anything that you guys do on the internet. So that's censorship's another issue, and monitoring of the internet. And finally, let's have a little think about how the internet has affected communities around the country. Of course there are good things. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that you can have blogs, chat rooms, you can even have wikis that will let people discuss local issues. And that's good, okay? You can let your local discuss local issues. You can let all members of your community get involved in things like planning issues and stuff like that. And of course, the logical thing about that, if everyone get involved because it's internet based, then obviously you've got those people. Once again, we go back to the disabled, and not so disabled, but perhaps even you could argue with a bit of training, the elderly, the people that are infirmed and housebound, they can become involved in discussing local issues. And also, you can have things like citizens' advice that can be set up. You can use the internet to actually harness and integrate a community and get everyone involved, whereas normally they wouldn't go down to town hall meetings and things like that. The flip side of doing everything on the internet is that we go back to, if you're doing everything if you're not doing anything face to face, you don't have that interaction. And one of the things that people tend to do on the net, we see this even with teachers on forums, quite frankly, is that people tend to be far more, let's say more vocal, and in some ways the way they're vocal isn't necessarily particularly constructive. And one of the terms you might hear on the internet is something called flaming, which is where you put up a statement that's designed to wind people up, or flaming and trolling as well are two internet-based expressions, flaming and trolling, where really people use the internet just to sort of wind other people up and just get them going, which is kind of annoying. But I suppose for your community, the biggest impact is that, if you remember a couple of videos ago we talked about the likes of Amazon and everyone buying things from the internet. Well, I wouldn't want to be, I'm not supposed to say this one, it says a 6, it's supposed to be an S. I wouldn't want to be a local shopkeeper in today's world, because let's face it, their custom is going to go down, isn't it? The internet, for all of the wondrous things that it can do, and the good that it can spread, and of course the bad that it can spread, the one thing is for sure that small businesses, unless they adapt and they start using the internet to reach their customers, there's no doubt that there are less and less people on the high streets now, because especially men don't like going shopping as a rule, because some people don't like shopping. In the past, you had no alternative. You want something, you had to go to the shops, even if you didn't like shopping. But nowadays, if you want that Cardiff City football shirt, and you can't bother to go to the shop to get one, you can order it online. And as a result, the local shops are going to suffer. So that's pretty much it. I think we'll have a quick flip back through some of those issues. Moral issues, that's your bullying, you're spreading your rumours, inappropriate websites, and throwing up deliberately incorrect information on the internet. Ethical issues are something which people often confuse as being law, and they're not. They're just shy of law. Plagiarism, there's nothing against law about copying someone's work, unless you then palm it off as your own and try and sell it. Sending a spam is not against the law. Monitoring emails is not against the law, and ripping someone else's internet connection is not against the law. As you mentioned about photo editing, not against the law, but morally, I think not right to imply there's no women in the Israeli cabinet. We moved on to social issues, the gambling, the obesity, addiction, and privacy. And then just a quick recap, censorship. Nobody really owns the net. You can control it by filtering out websites if you're a government, or of course if you're the UK government, you can monitor it all. You can let people go to everything and then monitor what they're going to, and when they go to something bad, stick them in prison, which some people might argue is not such a bad thing. And then finally, the hit on the local communities. It can be constructive. You can use it for good. But let's face it, some people just like a bit of a row on the internet, wind people up, and unfortunately your local shops are going to take the hit as well. Well, I hope that's made some sense to you. That's you go. Moral, social, ethical issues with a bit of censorship and community effect thrown in for good effect.